Alright, so I just had the thought to speak about this because I'm in this one group on Facebook, like the community page for the neighboring town. So I often see, people conversing or, whatever they happen to post. I don't post very often. I used to reply and answer questions here and there when people had them if I had useful information to share, but I got turned off by the group after watching for a while because there are some members of the group that just openly, regularly express in a way that's like so low vibe to me. And I don't know, it just turned me off from participating. So anyway, I did see a post today that evoked some of those lower natures in people. And it's inspired this video, so I'm gonna come back to that in a moment because I want to preface this by saying, first of all, what I'm about to share can be triggering for some people. It can rub you the wrong way. It can make you feel uncomfortable. Because I'm going to be really direct about some things that I've realized given my current perspective. But I want to preface it by saying, before I got to this level of awareness and this bigger picture view, I spent more than 10 years in a state of constant self-reflection. Meaning the things that I saw outside of me, I turned it around and looked for the same thing within me. Right? So if I saw people being rude to others, I turned it around and looked for where in me have I been rude to others. And then I would alchemize that within myself. And so now I'm at a point where I can have compassion and I understand why certain people are responding the way they are in this lower vibing way, right? It doesn't make it pleasant to look at. It doesn't make it fun to witness, because what I'm witnessing is actual shadows and pain and ego defense mechanisms, and those are all, boo-boos, basically. So, it's not fun to necessarily have to continue to watch it after I've cleared it within myself, but I do want to preface what I'm about to say very bluntly and plainly with the fact that, like, I'm not putting myself above or outside of this category, because me too, right? Like, I've done all those things too in the past. And I had to learn and I had to understand, and I used it as the roadmap to my healing. And that's how I know it's true when I say that, for instance, on this post today earlier, there was somebody posting about how somebody put their grass clippings in the road and how it's dangerous for motorcycles when somebody puts their grass clippings in the road. But they didn't just say that, they name called them. They called them a complete piece of shit or something like that. And then you could see the comment section, and there's a bunch of people calling them names. And it's like, name calling, really? It's just so interesting that we're resorting, these adults are resorting to name calling when, it's very possible that someone who did this just isn't aware of the danger. There's, and it's like, well, you need to be aware of the danger. It's like, yeah, I know. So kindly make them aware, right? Like, because here's the thing. We don't all know everything. And some of the things you know because of your life experiences. And I don't know about all of those things. I haven't had those life experiences. If I have one of those life experiences and it's brand new for me, I might learn some of those things because I'm now having the experience and it's now suddenly relevant to me. If my introduction to a new experience that you've already had and learned about is that I'm met with some sort of disgust over the fact that I didn't already know what I didn't know, like, how is that fair or right? we don't all know everything. Different people know different things. We have to continuously learn. So there are things that I know that you don't know. There are things that you know that I don't know. And I wouldn't pretend that you're somehow a lesser human being because you didn't know what I know. So when I witness some human beings attacking others and acting as if they're lesser human beings because they didn't know what they didn't know, I think, okay, this person who's attacking because this person didn't know is wounded in a way that shows me that they were mistreated when they didn't know something. Somebody made them feel like they were a piece of shit when they did something wrong. Somebody called them stupid when they did something that they didn't know about. And so people who are name calling are literally showing us how they've been treated. So when I look at the comments section, what I'm looking at is a bunch of adults who have grown into adulthood who are still carrying the wounds, likely from childhood, that where somebody was insulting them because they didn't know something. They were not allowed to be wrong. They were not allowed to make mistakes gracefully. They were not allowed to learn through trial and error without ridicule. An unreal and unmeetable expectation. Isn't that sad? So it's hard. It's hard to watch hurt children on the so-called internet playground throwing their hurt at each other. Or just throwing their hurt at a person that they imagine is not even a real person because it's just someone's talking about this person on the internet. Now for this particular post, they literally screenshotted the person's house from Google Maps and put it with the post of the local town. So everybody knows who the person is, what house did it. And you've got this whole list of their neighbors calling them names, when really it's just a whole list of their neighbors are wounded in such a way that this activates the wound. Now, in my experience, if I get activated in my wound, I go, okay, I've got something to heal in me because there's some part of me that's acting crazy over somebody else's something. Now let me look inside myself and see what part of me is hurt and needs my own love, right? And I would find that part of myself that felt like name calling, and I would accept her and I would understand her and I would be with how she feels. I would love that part of myself. And then that part of myself would be fully integrated so that I would then be graduated into compassion for that part of myself and also anyone else who happened to be acting in those ways. You see, it's a matter of maturing ourselves out of those reactions, and the reactions reveal to us where we are wounded, what part of us needs our love, what part of us needs healing, what part of us needs to be matured and understood and accepted. But it's always ever only a reflection of us when we are slinging mud. Because I can tell you that once you're healed, you don't go around gossiping and telling everybody's business and talking about how this person is so awful. If you're a person who finds yourself retelling the stories about how you were wronged over and over again to everybody you come in contact with, that's a version of you that needs validation for your view. And so you're trying to herd validation for your view because you need to feel validated. And this would, again, be an indication that there's a part of you that needs your own validation. It's always ever showing us, only ever showing us who we are when we project onto somebody else, when we call somebody names, when we say a rumor about somebody else. It's only a reflection of us. Only, always, and ever. It can't be anything else. So if you are going along and you're just like talking about some sort of like political party, and you're saying they're all blah 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 blah, and you know, you have a story about what you say about and what you think about them. Those are all the judgments that you're holding on to within your own body. And so what you don't realize is, while you project that wound onto them and say, oh, it's their fault, you're projecting it from within yourself. And you're going to keep attracting people that you can project it onto, because you're not willing to see that that's actually a judgment you carry. It probably isn't even true about those other people, because you can't define a whole group of people as something you've decided that they are. If you've decided a whole group of people is something, that decision was made within you. That definition is within you. That perspective comes from inside you. So you're only ever going to see your own perspective, which you can project out onto others. And it's not wrong when this happens, because we are humans. But to think that you are actually qualified to decide about somebody else without realizing you're actually revealing to healed people a facet of your own self that's unhealed is kind of an interesting thing, right? To see people projecting their own wounds and views and misunderstandings onto other people is very interesting, and it's actually war. And actually what it is being at war with yourself, which can turn into a war outside of you. So, you know, if you don't take care of these judgments within yourself and you project them onto the other, you will think the war is outside of you, that you're at war with that other group. But what you're actually at war is with the humanity within you. Because the humanity within you would understand that view just comes from your own perspective. That they're a completely separate person with different experiences that you couldn't possibly begin to understand. So you wouldn't know why their perspective and behavior is what it is unless you've asked them, and unless they're well aware enough to explain it to you and share it with you. And from that point, you may have a bigger awareness and understanding, but it still won't be their exact view. So, you know, when we see men in comment sections trying to shame others, calling them stupid and ignorant and dumb, or just people who generalize humans as scum or lesser or jerks, this is really what they think of themselves. This is really them disowning parts of themselves and projecting it out. It can only ever be that. It's never not that. Never, never, never. If you were a person who is calling people names, judging people, pointing your finger at others, all you are doing is revealing a part of yourself to the people who are in a bigger awareness than you. And if you're ready to heal it, it's going to be a pattern that you recognize. And you're going to continuously have this happen over and over again. Or all the reflections or places where you could project it out are going to disappear. You'll be left alone with that feeling, so you have to deal with the feeling. Maybe you'll be put in a position where the only person available to save your life is one of those people that you judged, and you'll have to think again. I don't know. The universe will act in mysterious ways to show you your own reflection back. So there's all kinds of ways it can be reflected back to you. But if you see people judging and name calling, that's what they're doing, is they're showing you themselves. That's who they are. It's never about the other person. If you hear people gossiping about someone, it's never about the gossiped on person. It's always about the person spreading it. Always. Every time. Never not. So when you feel justified to be at war and feel righteous, and anytime you're justifying your own actions, or trying to get validated, or even hurt, or even getting the validation from outside of you, it's only ever about your own boo-boo. Always. It shows that your own boo-boo every time. If you get offended, it's showing your own boo-boo. If you can't look at other human beings in compassion, then you have something to heal or clear up in a misunderstanding. Every time, that's what it boils to. So all the times that you do those things can reveal to you places where you can heal, where you can clear up your karmas, where you can release yourself from looping patterns that will repeat until you do so. Every time, no matter what. Now, when I say this, I want you to know that I'm not giving you this information so that you can go call everybody out. Because if you were going to go call everybody out and say, oh, you're just talking about what's a boo-boo within you, the fact that you feel the need to call them out on it just because I've told you that that's the case reveals something in you. What is in you that wants to make sure that they know they're wrong and you're right? Maybe there's a part of you that wants to disarm them. So there's a power struggle there, do you see? They can only have power if you give it to them. So instead of trying to tell them you're not powerful, use what you have, which is your own power, that you could have used to tell them that, but that would have been your projection. Turn it back within yourself and acknowledge that you have a fear about what the effects of their behavior might be on you. Or you have a discomfort with them displaying power in such a way. You have a fear that they could think that they have power over you, or you do believe that they have power over you by acting that way, by saying that about you or whatever. So when you acknowledge it, then you validate why you feel this way. Well, I feel this way because sometimes when they tease me, someone else joins in, and then there's a whole bunch of people around me, and that feels really uncomfortable and not fair, and I get really scared that they're going to do that. So I want to disarm them. I want to show them my power. Actually, all your power is supposed to be used for is for tending to you. So tend to the part of you, understand the part of you that feels scared. Accept that you feel scared. I feel scared that there's going to be some sort of mob mentality of people, turned against me. And boy, it's understandable that I feel scared, because that won't be pleasant if that happens. Accept that you feel that way, and then be present with what that feels like. It feels like fear. It feels scary to think they could all turn on me. It feels scary to think that I'm going to be singled out or excluded from the group. And then be with how that feels. As if it is happening to you. Don't push it away. Don't blame them. Don't wish it was different. Be the version of yourself that can be with that feeling of being excluded, of being pushed away, of being ganged up on. Now, don't rush it. Be with it as long as it wants. When it moves, you'll know it moved. And when it moves, you will now be the version of yourself that can handle that. And you will no longer be behaving in such a way that will force you to try to deflect or project or avoid that happening. Because you'll be the version of yourself that if that happens, you can still handle yourself. You still got your own back. You can still flow through that energy. That energy can flow through you, and it won't be a problem. It won't buckle you. You'll be in your power. Because your power was used to tend to yourself and to cultivate the space in you that was needed for it to pass through. You matured yourself to be the version of yourself that can handle whatever. So, that's all I have to say about that topic. Just my thoughts. just my thoughts. It's worthwhile to turn inward and to look at, why am I projecting this? Why am I so determined to try to make that person feel bad? Why am I trying to put my pain on that person? Why am I trying to make them feel like they're lesser? Why am I trying to shame them with a look or the tone that I'm using? You know, why am I trying to tell everybody else how awful they are? Why am I feeling like I need to chime in on what kind of person they are? Look inward. Tend to the person, the part of you that feels it, that acknowledge that part. Validate that part. Understand yourself. That part is valid. Find out why. Understand yourself. Accept that it's the truth. And then be present with what it feels like. This is alchemy. This is getting to know yourself. This is using your own power to be in control of yourself. This is maturing yourself to be the version that can handle that thing in a mature fashion. And also you open yourself up to compassion. So you're no longer at war with that part of yourself. So they're allowed to be it, and you're allowed to be a person who can handle it. If you feel like, well, who's going to teach them a lesson? Is your whole focus in life to be about teaching everybody else lessons? If it is, do you want to look at yourself and see why? Who was teaching you a lesson all the time? And what method did they use? And how did that make you feel? And are you now trying to put that uncomfortable feeling onto somebody else instead of handling it and processing it through yourself? It all leads back to us. So, any questions, feel free. Give examples where this has been true or even untrue for you. I'd be interested to see what your thoughts are.